I had this deal down at Home Depot on air hose. It's a 3-pack, 50 feet each, if I'm reading it correctly. So I figured, what a great opportunity to go ahead and run air throughout the shop. It'd really be handy over my tools to blow away sawdust that the dust collection doesn't get. So check this out. 20-piece airline connector kit. No T. 20-piece air compressor accessory kit. No T. Guess where I'm going? Here are the parts I used: a male-to-male fitting, a couple of couplers, a T, and a couple of ball valves that I decided to put in as well. They will let me close off one side entirely and still use the other one. There are a couple of ways to seal the threads. You can use pipe dope, which is probably the best, or you can use Teflon tape, which is definitely the cleanest. I chose the tape. The T has 2 female ends and 1 male end. I used one of the female ends to go to the tank, so that left me with a male and a female for the couplers. I wondered whether direction of flow mattered going through the ball valves. The instruction sheet said that the valve was open when the handle was lined up with the flow, but it didn't say that it had to be pointing in the same direction as the flow. That was what I was curious about. Did that matter? Because on the female end, it would point in the direction of flow, but on the male end, it was pointing back in the opposite direction. My research indicated that it didn't matter, so I went ahead and put it on like that instead of using another fitting. I decided to use screw hooks to hold the hose in place. I screwed them into the top plate of one wall, and then when I headed out across the ceiling, I just used plastic anchors to hold them in place. The hooks in the top plate were next to the ceiling, so after I put the hose on them, I turned the end of the hook up to the ceiling and sealed off the area so the hose couldn't fall off. The hose comes with male fittings on each end, but of course I had to cut it to fit my workshop. So after you cut the hose, you need this fitting. It's called a male thread to hose barb fitting. The barb side is called that because it has barbs on it that catch the hose and try to prevent it from pulling out. You also need a clamp small enough to screw down and hold the hose tight against the barb. I ran the hose from the air compressor in the corner up to the ceiling and then across one wall to the center of the shop where I teed off. I continued one hose over to the front of the shop by the overhead door. This would enable me to use it for things like airing up car tires. I also put a quick coupler on the T. This was to carry a line out to the middle of the shop where I could have things such as an air nozzle. The hose that was left over after that turned out to be the perfect length to get me to the first coupler in the middle of the shop. When I put this part of the line together, I was thinking that it would end with this coupler. Later I decided to extend it on, so I came back and replaced the coupler with a T with a coupler on it. There are 3 6-foot light fixtures lined up across the ceiling with about 2 feet in between each one of them. I decided to have couplers in each of those 2-foot sections. With this setup and a couple of 20-foot spiral hoses, I would be able to bring air to any place in the shop where I needed it. At the end of the extension, I put a T with 2 couplers on it. This way I could have my 20-foot spiral hose and also at a later date extend on further if I wanted to. My air compressor is very loud. Every time it starts, it startles me. Eventually, I'll replace it with something quieter. I put it in the corner with the dust collector because I intend to enclose that corner and soundproof it as much as possible. I can't just reach in there because I have shelves in the way at the moment. Eventually I'll build more permanent storage and get rid of the shelves. This has been an enjoyable project. It didn't take very long and wasn't difficult, although I did have to make 3 trips to Harbor Freight before I finally had all the airline components I needed. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're not a subscriber, please become one. If you liked the video, hit that like button. See you in the next video.